It is time for existentialism, or specifically what existentialism has to say about ethics. So there's a lot of stuff wrapped up in existentialism, but the good news for us is that if we limit ourselves just to their ethics, and especially just to the ethics that we're looking at, which is the atheist existentialists, we're looking at Sartre and de Beauvoir, which we have over here. The good news is that it's relatively straightforward because it's mostly Kant. And now if you say, Professor, I didn't understand a word that Kant was saying, that's okay because now you get a second chance. The readings are still difficult. Philosophy readings are always difficult, but hopefully many of the ideas will seem familiar to you. So what I'm going to do in this video is basically just give a broad overview of what you're going to see. And so that way it will be even more familiar to you when you read it, and hopefully that will make the difficulty of the readings more approachable. So, step one, what's up with the existentialist viewpoint? So we see this explained in the first of the two Sartre readings. It's the first thing he starts off with in our selection. And it's this idea of what they call existence precedes ethics. Oh boy, that was wrong. Existence precedes essence. So this is why they're called existentialists. They think existence has priority over essence. And what does that mean? You will see Sartre explain what it means, so you'll get a pretty full explanation there. But basically what this means is that there's no such thing as human nature. There's no such thing as how human beings essentially are. Human beings do not have an essence. What we have is an existence, and the way we exist creates who we are. And so the only sense in which we have an essence is after we have made choices, after you do things in your life. Then perhaps we can speak of you of having an essence. We can speak of you. Yes, I guess that was, yeah. But, you know, when you're born or something, there is no sort of human nature there. If you think back to Aristotle, Aristotle would not like this. Aristotle's entire ethical theory is based on assuming there is such thing as the essence of a human being, or as he puts it, the function of a human being. And eudaimonia is based on that, and ethics is based on eudaimonia. So for Aristotle, his entire ethical system is built on essence, and we go from there. The existentialist says, no, humans don't have a function. Also, moving beyond Aristotle, some people thought humans have an essence because they were created by God. No, no such thing. There is no God. We don't have any essence. There is nothing we're supposed to be, or nothing we are essentially, or nothing we are naturally. There's no human nature. We exist and we decide what we are like. And so ethics can't be based on human nature. It has to be based on something else. What are we going to base ethics on if we can't do the Aristotelian project of human nature? Well, it turns out to be basically the Kantian project, which is basing ethics on freedom. So, according to the existentialists, we have complete free will. It is always up to you who you are and what you do. So for instance, this means you can't be like overcome with passion or something like this. You are always in control of yourself. Or the clearer way to put it is, when you are overcome by passion, you choose to be overcome by passion. You freely choose to be overcome by passion. You are free, and nothing you can do can change that you are free. You are sort of stuck being free, or as Sartre puts it, condemned to be free. You must accept this, according to the existentialist. If you do not accept that you are completely free and in complete control of yourself, then you are living in what the existentialist calls bad faith. You're sort of, you're lying to yourself. You're deceiving yourself. You're telling yourself you're not free, but you are. Every human being is ultimately free. There's nothing holding you back. There is no essence which determines how you're going to act. You're not born into any sort of role. You decide who you are, and nobody except you can decide who you are. How should you make this decision? Well, they say you should universalize the choices you make in effectively exactly the same way Kant said. So you have to, when you act, when you make a decision, when you choose a principle for yourself, you have to ask, not just do I want this, but do I want this for everybody? Do I want this to be a principle that everybody acts on? Do I want to commit not just myself to this act, but do I want to commit all of humanity to this act? So the way Sartre puts it is, look, if you choose between, becoming a communist or joining a sort of Christian party, you have to imagine not just, is this going to be what I want? Is this going to be good for me? You have to imagine, is this what humanity should do? As Kant would put it, imagine yourself choosing as a universal law for everybody, or ask whether you can will that everybody act on the maxim that you act on. So that is how we must make moral choices. And as de Beauvoir points out, another way of thinking about this is that you must treat humans as ends in themselves, not merely as a means. So humans are ends in themselves. We are ultimately free. We create everything that is of value. We create ourselves. Nothing in the world matters except humans, or what we decide to make matter, because we are in charge of everything that happens. So you must always treat yourself and everybody else as ends in themselves. We are ultimately free, and this makes us ends in ourselves. If this sounds familiar, it's because it is what Kant said. One way Kant put this is that we have a dignity. Everything else has a price. We are worth more than everything. And there is no sort of price that attaches to human beings. There's no sort of essence that we have that determines what we're worth. We are beyond worth. We create worth. We are the foundation of worth. So I've been describing to you the existentialist ethical system, and so far it's just Kant. What are some differences between them and Kant? Well, there are two main ones. The one that de Beauvoir points out is that, an example de Beauvoir gives of treating people as an ends, not merely as a means, is that she says you can't lie to people. Lying to somebody treats them as a means, not as an end. If that sounds familiar, that was one of Kant's examples. So where are they different? So two main differences. First, the existentialists say, de Beauvoir says, you actually must treat people as a means. And you say, oh, hold on, you just told me I'm not supposed to do that. You told me I'm supposed to treat people as ends in themselves. And she says, yes, but this is unavoidable. You just can't, life is not such that you can always treat everybody as an end in themselves. Circumstances arise such that you must treat someone or another as a means. So what do you do? Good question. But this is something Kant did not think, or at least Kant, it wasn't clear what Kant thought about this. It's complicated, and we didn't really get into this because, what do you do if things conflict for Kant? Kant's answer is, well, nothing conflicts. If you think something conflicts, then somebody's done something wrong somewhere. The existentialists don't have such a rosy picture of life. As de Beauvoir points out, moral conflict is unavoidable. You can't be perfect. The second disagreement between Kant and the existentialists is that, as Sartre points out at various places, there is no sort of a priori morality. Kant thought we could derive morality entirely from reason. He thought it applied not just to humans, but to any rational creature. Rationality just gives you the rules of morality. And the existentialists say, look, no, you can get whatever, Kant's moral theory a priori, but Kant's moral theory is not good enough. It doesn't actually tell anybody what to do because it's lacking in specificity. And this is what Sartre says in the second Sartre reading, the last Sartre reading. He says, Kant's moral theory is limited. It doesn't give you actual answers. To get actual answers, you can't look at pure reason, which is, you can't look at sort of logic. You can't do it a priori without any investigation into the world. The only way to know what to do morally is to live. You have to create morality through your actions. You have to create your principles through your actions. And in fact, you're creating principles for everybody because remember, you're universalizing. So none of this can exist without humans. And specifically, none of it can exist without humans doing things. Merely humans existing is not enough. We have to act. Action is what determines morality. So Kant's moral theory is all well and good as a set of principles, but those don't tell anybody what to do. And if you think back to some of our discussion of Kant, maybe you had similar worries. You say, great, I have the categorical imperative, but I just can't, like, how am I supposed to use this in some situation or another? And Sartre, picking up on a criticism that was made of Kant by Hegel, says, exactly. How are you supposed to know what to do with Kant? There's nothing there. It's empty. The only way to get an actual moral system, the one the existentialists endorse, is to create, is to live, is to act in the world. That is where morality comes from. Not from pure reason, but from existence and active existence. It's unavoidable. We must do this. You can't live your life without choosing, because not to choose is just another way of choosing. And this is the human predicament. We are stuck being completely free, and it's entirely up to us, and we must live like this. So that is the existentialist picture. Now that you have it sort of in a broad painting, you can go and investigate it more in a more focused manner. De Beauvoir talks not just about this, but about defending existentialist ethics against the sort of realist who says, I don't care about ethics at all. Sartre defends existentialist ethics against the charge that, look, it's all entirely subjective. It's just entirely up to us. So, there's no right answer. And so you'll see, what do you think about how they describe ethics, and also can they respond to these objections?